Hello and welcome to the Rolling Dice Show review of Raptor, a two-player game about raptors and scientists by Bruno Cathala and Bruno Faidutti, and published by Matagot. Hello! Hello, you look to be a perfect, though more casually dressed, copy of me. Yes. You must be here so that I don't have to read the whole script in one sitting. Yes. Brilliant. And that means conversation between us won't be stilted at all because we're totally sat right next to each other now and there's not at all any camera trickery, right? Yes. Raptor is an asynchronous, card-driven board game with tactical play and some double guessing. Mama Raptor has escaped from her run and laid eggs in the park, which is it's definitely not Jurassic Park, some other park with dinosaurs and scientists. Exactly. A team of scientists must neutralise her and capture the baby raptors before they run wild into the forest. The scientist player wins by either capturing 3 baby raptors or by putting the mama raptor to sleep, and the raptor player wins by getting 3 of the babies to escape or by eating all of the scientists. To set up the game, you lay out a 3 by 2 tile grid, add the L-shaped pieces along the short edges, and place obstacle boulders on the blank spaces on the tiles. Each player takes a reference sheet. The raptor player then places the mama raptor on either of the central 2 tiles and a baby raptor on each of the 5 remaining tiles. The scientist player then places a scientist on each of the 4 L pieces and places their 5 sleep grenades on their reference sheet. Finally, each player takes their deck of 9 cards, shuffles them and draws 3. The game can then begin. At the start of each turn, both the Raptor and Scientist player select a card and reveal it simultaneously. The player with the lowest revealed numbered card gets to carry out the card's ability, and the player with the highest numbered card gets to carry out a number of actions equal to the difference between the 2 cards. For example here, where this Raptor player has a 3 and the Scientist player has a 6, the Scientist player would get to carry out 3 actions. Let's talk about those card abilities. Both player decks are made up of 9 cards, numbered 1 through 9. The scientist player can use sleeping gas on a baby raptor, putting it to sleep and laying the figure down. They can bring reinforcements to the board. They can hop in a jeep and move any number of tiles in a straight line. And they can put fire down on the board. With this, the first fire token on the board must be placed adjacent to a scientist, but any subsequent tokens can be placed adjacent to existing fires. Whereas the raptor player has the ability to call awake babies to the tile the mother is on, to disappear from the board, then reappear at the end of the turn. Now, this ability is great because it also lets you see what card the scientist player is going to play next before you decide what card you want to play. Then there's the ability to scare scientists, lying the figures down on the board, and recovery, which allows the player to remove a sleep token from the mother or to wake sleeping babies. On the number 1 card, both players have the ability to shuffle their discarded cards back into their draw decks, in addition to the other ability. Lower value cards generally have less powerful abilities than the high value cards, as the higher value cards are, in theory anyway, more difficult to play the abilities of. Both players also have a different set of actions available to them. Yeah, the scientist player can spend an action to move a scientist 1 space orthogonally. They can stand a scared scientist, or if a scientist has orthogonal line of sight to the mama raptor, they can shoot it by spending a tranquilizer dart, flipping it over and putting it on the raptor player's reference sheet. If a scientist is next to a baby raptor, they can put it to sleep. A sleeping raptor can be caught by a scientist. All of these last 3 actions are considered to be aggressive, and a single scientist figure can only do 1 aggressive action each turn. This means that to catch an awake baby raptor in a single turn, you would need 2 scientists, 1 to put it to sleep and another to catch it. The raptor player can move an awake baby raptor 1 space orthogonally and move the mama raptor any number of unobstructed squares in a straight line. If the raptor player has any sleep tokens on the reference sheet, then the first time the mama moves in a turn, it will cost additional action points equal to the number of those tokens. If the mama's next to a sleeping baby raptor, she can wake it, and if she's next to a scientist, she can chow down on them, removing the figures from the game. The mama can also put out fires on the board by standing next to a tile that's on fire, wafting her tail at the flames, and removing all of the adjoining tokens. Initially, the game can seem like it's weighted in favour of the scientist, so here are some top tips to make sure you hit the ground running on your first game. As the raptor player, you want to be hyper aggressive at the start of the game. You want to position your Mama Raptor initially so that she has quick, unobstructed access to either edge of the board, or so that you can swing out early and spend a few actions chowing down on those wimpy scientists. After that, just remember how much more agile the Mama is than her babies, and use that to your advantage by charging the Mama into an exit tile and then calling her babies to her. As the scientist player, the key thing to remember is that you need 2 scientist figures to be able to capture an awake baby in a single turn. So make sure to gang up on those little ones. Getting some early reinforcements can really help with that. Slowing down the Mama when you can is no bad idea either. In a game where a few action points can make all the difference, forcing the Mama Raptor to spend extra actions to move is incredibly valuable. Card play makes up the bulk of the game for Raptor, with everything else being reactive to how the cards play. As a result, the game lives and dies based on if that card play is actually any good. Fortunately for Raptor, it's bloody fantastic. You're constantly trying to guess what your opponent's going to play next so that you can respond in such a way that you get to do the thing you actually want to do. This makes each card choice and subsequent reveal incredibly tense in the best way possible. Audible moans, groans and exclamations accompany almost every reveal. Now, with such a small number of cards and unique actions, I was initially worried that the game would be a bit repetitive, but each match feels unique and fresh. You constantly need to adjust your strategy to react to your opponent and keep an eye on what's already been played so that you make sure each play is to your advantage. You are given enough knowledge to make an educated choice, especially as your opponent's card pool depletes as the game goes on, but they can swiftly replenish that pool at any time. You're both vying to take the special action you need or to gain the most action points, while trying to stop your opponent from taking that action and limit their movement. Of course, sometimes those matchups will be completely out of whack. There's potential for huge power swings between players, which some people might find issue with. In a game like this, getting 4 actions is superb, but getting 5, 6, up to a maximum of 8 actions is incredibly powerful, enough that it can be incredibly difficult for your opponent to come back from. Due to the limited card pool, there is some built-in repercussion for this. If your opponent just got 6 actions over you because they played their 9 when you played your 3, then at least that 9 is out of the way, and the only way they'll get it back is for them to either play their 1, putting them at a disadvantage for that turn, or to wait until they've run through their deck. Ultimately though, the game revolves around playing these cards well, and if you do make a poor play, you will be at a disadvantage, and one that can be hard to come back from. It's entirely possible to have lost the game just based on one, admittedly very poor, turn. The same complaint could be made of a huge number of games though, and a round of Raptor is quick enough that even if you don't manage to come back from it, you won't have to sit and dwell on your mistake for long. Let's take a minute and just talk about what you actually get in this box. The components are beautiful. Vincent Dutray's artwork gives the game a Jurassic Park, though totally not Jurassic Park, kind of vibe. And the Raptor and Scientist miniatures are a nice touch, though some of those Raptor minis do feel just a little bit flimsy. The large size cards are clear, beautifully laid out and feel great in the hand. The double-sided play tiles have a good thickness to them, and when coupled with the obstructions, make for a really interesting looking playboard. The player aids are especially helpful. Not only do they detail your actions, but your opponent's as well, and the only thing missing from them is some information about your opponent's cards. The rulebook too has obviously had a great deal of thought put into it. It offers a concise overview of gameplay, then turns to more detailed examples of the cards and actions for each player. The back has a section called A Few Reminders that mentions rules likely to be forgotten or misunderstood, which helps to ensure you're going to be playing the game correctly from your very first time. The combination of this clear rulebook and the player aids makes the game incredibly easy to learn, and mean you can go from about opening the box to playing your first game in just a few minutes. At its core, Raptor is an abstract game. Scrape away the theme and exciting card play, and it feels something like chess. But unlike most abstract games, the theme here is well realised and really quite engaging. The special powers and movements of each side fit perfectly with the role you're playing. As a scientist player, you're going to be slowly stalking your prey, limited by the single aggressive action per turn. And as the Raptor player, you're darting across the board, sneaking out of sight and pouncing onto your victims. Both the Raptor and Scientist simultaneously act as the hunters and the hunted, making for a great duel where absolutely every turn is exciting. We don't often review 2-player board games on Rolling Dice Show. Heck, we don't often play them. Our 2-player time tends to be focused on LCGs. I'm so glad we shone a spotlight on this particular gem though. Its clever card mechanic and deceptively tactical but speedy play is fun and exciting, and I would highly recommend it to damn near anyone. This is a great gamer's game, but it is also accessible enough that it deserves a space on the shelf of newcomers to the hobby too. Yes, Raptor is absolutely superb. It looks great, it plays fantastically, and it's easy to teach. It's a hearty recommendation from us. Do yourself a favour and buy it. If you've enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment below. For more reviews, articles and podcasts, be sure to check out rollingdiceshow.com. And if you're one of those social sorts, you can follow me, us I suppose, on Twitter at RDSRich and the site at Rolling Dice Show. Until next time, keep rolling dice.